Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Here, let's try this. Does that work? This way? Let's try. That's good. Thank you. That's good. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 2. Hiranyakashipu, King of the Demons, text number 14. Purda, Grama, Vraja, Udyana, Chetra, Arama, Ashrama, Akaran, Keta, Karavata, Goshan, Cha, Dadadho, Patanani, Cha, Purakrama Vajodhyana, Chetrarama Smamakaran, Ketakarvata Goshamscha, Dadadho Patanani Cha, Purakrama Vrajodhyana, Chetrarama Ramakaran, Ketakarvata Goshamscha, Dadadhu Patanani Cha, Purakrama Vajodhyana, Chetrarama Smamakaran, Ketakarvata Goshamscha, Dadadhu Patanani Cha. Please chant. Ladies, Purdakrama Vrajodhyana, Chaitadama Shramakaram, Ketakarvata Goshamscha, Dadatu Pananani Cha. Any ladies over 8 years old like to try? Word meanings. Purda, cities and towns. Grama, villages. Vraja, pasturing grounds. Udyana, gardens. Kshetra, agricultural fields. Arama, natural forests. Ashrama, hermitage of saintly persons. Akaran, and mines that produce valuable metals to maintain Brahminical culture. Keta, farm villages. Karvata, mountain villages. Goshan, the little villages of cowherds. Cha, and. Dadatu, they burned. Patanani, the capitals. Cha, also. Translation. The demons set fire to the cities, villages, pasturing grounds, cow pens, gardens, agricultural fields, and natural forests. They burned the hermitages of the saintly persons, the important mines that produced valuable metals, the residential quarters of the agriculturalists, the mountain villages, and the villages of the cow protectors, the cowherd men. They also burned government capitals. Sounds like global warming, previous yuga. Purports. The word by Srila Prabhupada, Ki Jai, His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, Ki Jai. The word Ujjana refers to places where trees are especially grown to produce fruits and flowers, which are most important for human civilization. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 9:26, Patra pushpam param toyam yomi bhaktya prayachati tadaham bhaktuparitam ashnami prayatatmanaha. If one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, fruit, or water, I will accept it. Fruits and flowers are very much pleasing to the Lord. If one wants to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he can simply offer fruits and flowers, and the Lord will be pleased to accept them. Our only duty is to please the Supreme Godhead. Samsiddhir Haritoshanam. Whatever we do and whatever our occupation, our main purpose should be to please the Supreme Lord. Repeat that. Very nice. Whatever we do... No. That's nice enthusiasm. I was just going to repeat it. Whatever we do and whatever our occupation, our main purpose should be to please the Supreme Lord. All the paraphernalia mentioned in this verse is especially meant for the satisfaction of the Lord, not the satisfaction of one's senses. The government, indeed, the entire society, should be structured in such a way that everyone can be trained to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But unfortunately, especially in this age, the te vidhu svartakatim hi Vishnum, people do not know that the highest goal of human life is to please Vishnu. On the contrary, the demons, they simply plan to kill Vishnu and be happy by sense gratification. Om Agyanattamyandasya Janan Anjana Shalakaya Chakshur Manitamyena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapanantikam Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. So here we're reading how under the instructions of Hiranyakashipu, his demoniac associates, they went to earth to create chaos and destruction. This was their goal. So they're burning everything, villages, capitals, government heads, etc. So the question should be asked, why? Why would anybody do these kind of things? Well, at the bottom, underneath it, they're thinking that if they can destroy Vishnu, if they can destroy the Devas, if they can destroy the pilgrimage sites, destroy the process of yajna, disrupt the whole systems that are there. They want to disrupt the systems, disrupt Varnashram, disrupt the yajnas, disrupt the Devas, And thus, they would be able to take charge of what's going on, and they can exploit the world and enjoy it for their own satisfaction. So first destroy everything, and then we come in and we can use it for our own selfish purposes. In other words, as often is done, but not such dramatic ways, they simply trying to increase their own separate enjoyment of the world. That's their goal. They're rather powerful demons, so they're doing it in rather powerful, expressive ways. But the underlying principle is there of a demoniac mentality. So Prabhupada explains here and in so many different purports that we've been reading that this is the difference between a demoniac mentality and a devotional one. That the devotee of the Lord, one who's gradually awakening our understanding of who we are and what our actual identity is, we're trying to use everything for the Lord, whereas the demoniac person, or devotionally inclined person, don't say we, devotionally inclined person uses everything for the Lord, and the demoniacally inclined person wants to use everything for themselves. Overcome by the lower modes of nature, particularly ignorance, of course, and lots of passion thrown in. And it's described in the Shastra that actually, unknowingly, they're acting against themselves and against others. They're thinking, actually, I'm going to control everything, enjoy it like crazy, but actually, they're only harming themselves and only harming others. What's particularly interesting in this series of verses is that in a few verses from now, Hiranyakashipu, who we understand is the greatest of the demoniac kings and the greatest example of a demoniac mentality, a few verses forward from this, he's going to start reciting some wonderful philosophy to his mother, his sister-in-law, and his nephews, all who are lamenting over the death of Hiranyaksha. So let's just listen to what he says. Just a couple of verses here. Text 20, 21, 22. My dear mother, in a restaurant or a place for drinking cold water, many travelers are brought together. And after drinking water, they continue in their respective destinations. Similarly, living entities join together in a family. And later, as a result of their own actions, they are led apart to their destinations. This is Hiranyakashipu. The spirit soul, the living entity, has no death, for he is eternal and inexhaustible. Being free from the material contamination, he can go anywhere in the material or spiritual worlds. He is fully aware and completely different from the material body. But because of being misled by the misuse of his slight independence, he is obliged to accept subtle and gross bodies created by the material energy, and thus to be subjected to so-called material happiness and distress. Therefore, no one should lament for the passing of the spirit soul from the body. So that's Hiranyakashipu. Rather strange. And Prabhupada comments in the purport to that verse that the demons also have knowledge. They're not necessarily completely ignorant, but they misuse their knowledge. They misuse their knowledge. And we also know that Hiranyakashipu, of course, he was actually a great devotee. Jai and Vijay, who unfortunately were cursed to come into this world and act as demons. So the lines are a little blurred. That's the point. Demoniac, devotional, good guys, bad guys, use the world, offer the world. It's not that you draw a line in the sand and you can make this demarcation. It's not so clear. So why is it blurred? Because we tend to see things like that. I'm a devotee and that's a demon. Or sometimes it's even more direct. I'm a devotee and you're a demon. Sometimes we think like that. But the lines are blurred. Why? Ultimately because the real fact is what? What's the real fact? Everybody's a devotee. Every living entity is a devotee of Krishna. But in this world, everyone's forgotten Krishna. Mamaevam sho jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana manasastrani indinani prakriti stani karshati. They're all parts and parcels of Krishna, but we're forgetful. We're covered over by ignorance to one degree or the other. Therefore, the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita, yada yada hi dharmasya, he comes again and again, again and again and again and again and again and again, to teach as much as people can possibly understand at that particular time how to reawaken their knowledge of Krishna. So it's not so much demoniac and devotional, it's the spectrum, really demoniac and purely awakened in devotion, and everything in between. There's a spectrum. There's a spectrum. Srila Prabhupada explains in his purport to these verses in the 4th chapter about Krishna coming again and again, that the mission of these, the Lord's mission is the same, and the mission of His different representatives and the mission of the different spiritual teachers, it's all the same. It's all to gradually bring people back to God consciousness. And therefore we see that there's so many different religious traditions in the world. And as devotees, Prabhupada instructs us, we should appreciate any process that bringing people gradually to a spiritual awakening. Again, we tend to see we're good, they're bad, we're better, etc. I have one story I wanted to share. I have a friend, he's a professor who's a Muslim man, and he's older, he's maybe in his 70s. And he went and heard Prabhupada speak at Harvard University whenever Prabhupada was there in early 69, 70, something, in the early days. He just happened to be walking through the hall of the Divinity College and he saw someone in saffron. And being from India, he knew saffron was not something you ordinarily see on the Harvard campus. So he went to hear Prabhupada. And two things. He said he came out of there convinced that there's great spiritual truth in every tradition. Because he was Muslim, yet he came and heard this Vaishnav saint speak, and he was so impressed. So I knew this story for years, and recently I was with him again, and I said, tell me that story again about your time with Prabhupada. So he told the story again. And at the end he said, you know something funny? He said, I'm a Muslim. He said, but whenever I'm in trouble, whenever there's some problem, I think of him. He said, I'm a Muslim. You'd think I would think of something in Islam. But I don't. I think of him. And he started to cry. And then he went like, I can't talk about it anymore. So, he's not of our particular tradition. He doesn't read our scripture. He appreciates our scripture. This particular man, he's vegetarian. You talk to him, Hare Krishna. He's a very, very pious person. But he's Muslim. But he's appreciating the devotee of the Lord, the pure devotee of the Lord. He's appreciating the Krishna conscious practice. So, we're very fortunate. We're sitting here in Mayapur with the lotus feet of Panchatattva and Sri Radhamadhava. We're so fortunate to have this opportunity to take shelter of the movement of Lord Chaitanya, to take shelter of Srila Prabhupada. And we know Prabhupada describes again and again that Krishna consciousness is the best process. We know that. It's the best process. But within the word best, what else is there by definition? If there's a best, what else does that mean? There's others that also were good. This is the best among many. So when we say best, we're very, very fortunate to have this. I was listening to a lecture just recently, and Prabhupada he said this many, many times. He said, it doesn't really matter what religious system you're following. It doesn't matter. Christian, Hindu, Muslim. He said, the question is, are you awakening love of God? That's the question. That's what really matters. So we sit here as humble members and servants of ISKCON and Srila Prabhupada and the Vaishnavas, and it's our 50th anniversary as a society. So we should be asking ourselves, just like we just finished a leadership and management course, one of the principles is accountability, to be measuring things. Prabhupada also pushed us that we should be measuring things. So we should ask ourselves individually and collectively, am I developing love of God? How am I doing? It's not enough that we simply think I'm wearing tilak. I have the classic 2 paisa thread. I have, those of us, times passing, whatever hair is left, there's a little sika still there. That's not actually the test. Those are nice things. The external things are good. It's a culture. It helps us cultivate something. Culture means you're cultivating something, just like you cultivate crops. So we're cultivating God consciousness. We're cultivating love of God. But we have to be asking ourselves, am I actually developing awakening love of God? And along with that, prior to that, we have to ask ourselves, am I and are we losing our sense of pride and our sense of false ego? What separates the demons here from the devotees? Hiranyakashipu is full of spiritual knowledge. I mean, nobody's quoting me in the Bhagavatam. Anuttama said some great philosophical truth. But, Hiranyakashipu spoke some great spiritual truth. And Prabhupada comments in the purport, this is deep spiritual knowledge. So he had that knowledge, but he misused it. He didn't really understand it because of his pride, because of his ego, because of his false sense of who he was. Just like we're here in Mayapur and we're building, by Krishna's grace, we're building this beautiful temple, glorious temple. And we have to ask ourselves, what's our mentality towards the temple? Just like we have to ask ourselves, what's our mentality towards our life and towards our time and towards our very being? What's our mentality towards others? So we have to think, this beautiful temple, but we should ask, well, who's it for? We should ask ourselves, who's it for? Who do I think it's for? And we should ask ourselves, who gets the credit? Who gets the credit? Because if we think I'm building this temple, or I am the donor, I gave 1 paisa, or I gave $1, or I gave whatever, a Radharani coin, or I don't know all the coins. It's beyond my capacity, so I didn't look so close. Radharani coin, Krishna coin, Chaitanya coin, whatever it is. If I give that, then actually that's illusion. And that's a little bit of demoniac mentality. It's a spectrum. It's a spectrum. So we have to be careful. Because we know, actually, Krishna's a doer. If I gave some money, whose money was it? Where did I get it? Maybe my father or mother gave it to me. So who determined they'd be my father and mother? Did I arrange that? I can't take credit for that. Maybe I got good grades, got a good job. So who gave me the brain? Did I go to the store, pick out the best brain, made the best decision, therefore I'm reaping the rewards of my good brain? No. Maybe some karma in the past, but who allowed those laws to work? Who ultimately gave me that opportunity? Krishna. So if we're thinking that, for example, this temple is for us, look what we have. Look what we're doing. Just like sometimes we hear devotees talk about, this is the biggest temple in the world. Well, how many worlds are there? Even Lord Brahma was humbled and he created the whole universe. So maybe we create one temple. Of course, it's not finished. And ultimately, Krishna, he can let it finish if he likes, or he cannot let us finish. The world's full of unfinished buildings and empty buildings and buildings that were once great but then died. The world's full of, and our movement's been not full of, but we've had our fair share of great devotees who once rose but then spiritually died. It's a battle. It's a battle with Maya, and it's a battle with ourselves. So if we're thinking this temple is for us, or look what we've done, or we're so good, here we are out in the rice fields of Mayapur, and if you really, really, really know where you're going, and if you really, really, really can tolerate the taxi drive, you find your way here. We build a temple. It's a glorious temple, there's no doubt. It's an effort to fill the mission of the great acharyas. But the point is, if we start thinking that it's for us, and not understanding who it's really for, then we're sliding into a materialistic, or, according to this analysis here, demonic mentality. Certainly it's for Panchatattva, certainly it's for Radha Madhava, but even more than that, who's it for? It's for the people. It's for the people. We know the wonderful story. Prabhupada was sitting in his bhajan kuntir near the gate, and he said, this place is mode of goodness, this is the perfect place for Krishna consciousness. Why are we building just even the first building, the lotus building, a little tiny building? He said, that's the mode of passion. Why are we building that? He said, because who will come to this hut? So why did he build the lotus building? For the people. Why are we building the temple? For the people, for the mass of people. Which people? Not so much us, really. For the forgetful people. Because who did Lord Chaitanya come for? Who did Prabhupada come for? Did they come to save the Brahmins? Was that their mission? Save the Brahmins? No, that wasn't their mission. The mission was to save the most fallen. And if we're their servants, we have to think, who are we trying to save? Who are our lives supposed to be dedicated for? So this temple, that temple, Mayapur itself, we should be thinking, it's not for, just like Hiranyakashipu was thinking, the world's for me. It's all for me, and I have a little bit of knowledge to convince me that it's all for me. My people are special, my tribe is special, my power is special, my race is special, my color is special, my position is special. But if we're actually understanding, no, we're servants. If we're beginning to awaken love of God, the first principle is that we're servants. So we're servants of this place. And our job is to facilitate others. Srila Prabhupada structured his society in that way. He said in his first purpose, he said that to systematically propagate spiritual knowledge to society at large. That's our mission, to systematically propagate spiritual knowledge to society at large. So if we're beginning to awaken our love of God, and if we're beginning to love Srila Prabhupada, if we're beginning to love his mission, beginning to love our gurus, then we should see how much are we excited to bring others to the Lord. How much we're thinking about how can we make this place heaven? How can Mayapur be heaven on earth? As they say it, Juhu, right? Heaven on earth. So how can it be heaven on earth? Not for those that, for us. Heaven on earth is not supposed to be for us, but we're supposed to be servants of others who can come here and become Krishna conscious. Of course, we also live here. Prabhupada says the servant enjoys like on the same level as the king. But as soon as the servant starts thinking I'm enjoying on the level of the king, then he's in trouble. So it's our 50th anniversary. So many people are coming here. And so many more people will be coming in the future to see the temple, to see this beautiful place in Mayapur. And it's described even in this verse we read, that people they're going to come and see even, how do we treat the trees here? It says, the word Ujjana refers to places where trees are especially grown to produce fruits and flowers, which are most important for human civilization. So if we think this place is for us, but it's not for the trees, that's a demoniac mentality. If we think this place is for us, but it's not for the local people, that's a demoniac mentality. If we think this place is for us, however we define that, but it's not for the foreign people, that's a demoniac mentality. If we think this place is for us, but it's not for the high-class people, they're too puffed up, that's a demoniac mentality. If we think this place is for us, but it's not for the low-class people, look at these people, they're so poor, etc. That's a demoniac mentality. If we think I'm the servant of Sri Panchatattva and Sri Madhamadava, and look at all of these devotees, some of them leaving their beedis just outside the gate, and what else they might be carrying in their hearts and their minds. Krishna doesn't see like that. Does Krishna see, no, these people, this one's a demon, this one's a devotee? Where does it say in the Shastra that's the way Krishna, the deity, sees? He sees everyone who's coming as his devotee, and he's accepting their service. So not just here, but everywhere around the world. It's such an important message for us. It's our 50th anniversary. We've got a foothold. We have a foothold in the world. We've made some progress. We've got a few temples. We have about 650 temples. An astonishing 516 million books. That's amazing. It's an amazing number of books. But there's, how many people in the world? 8 billion? 7 billion. So we've got 1 out of 14 have gotten a book. It's a good start. But is it time to quit? 1 out of 14? Should we say, okay, it's all done? How many languages now? 80, 90 languages? 80 or 90 languages, and they estimate, who knows, there could be more hidden in some forest someplace. But something like 6,000 languages? Okay, so 80 or 90, good start, but 5,910 to go. So if we start thinking, 90 languages, 500 million books, 600 temples, then we're forgetting what our position is. Because we start thinking we're the enjoyers of our success. And we don't want to do that, because then we can't really help people. So when people, just in terms of our temples, when people visit, they should genuinely feel, and it's not a cheap thing, we have to actually develop this mentality. Mukunda Maharaj writes, when he first met Prabhupada, I think it's told in Lilamrita too, when he first met Prabhupada, he was amazed at how he felt Prabhupada really wanted to give him his time. He actually cared for him. He felt that. He said maybe for the first time in his life, somebody actually cared and wanted to spend their time with him. And because of that, because of Prabhupada's mood, Krishna conscious movement is spread all over the world. So we have to measure that. We have to measure ourselves. And when we read these verses about the demons set fire to the villages, it's so easy to think, yeah, those bad demons. Good thing I'm not one of them. But we should think, where have I set fire? How many fires have I set in the last 24 hours? How many people have I discouraged in the last 24 hours? How many people could I have encouraged that I didn't encourage in the last 24 hours? How many seeds of ill will, little small tones have I spoken that were setting fires in people's hearts? Where are we on the spectrum? Where did I allow myself to be on the spectrum yesterday? Am I determined to be more on the devotional side today? Because we know we're conditioned souls. We're affected by things in this world. But people are looking to us, and the Lord's looking to us, and our Guru Parampara is looking to us to carry the light, to carry the banner. It's our 50th anniversary. People are coming, and they want to see, do you care about me? You say your movement's all about love of God. So if you love God, what do you think about me? The Christians don't have a corner on compassion. They're really good at promoting it. And they understand that quality of God. They have some deep realization about that quality of God. How much have we understood that? And how much are we demonstrating that to people? And how is it possible for us to do so? How can we actually care for people? Well, because we know, we have this knowledge. Every living being is a part and parcel of Krishna. And Krishna wants them back. It's such a beautiful understanding of God. He's so kind. The Lord is standing there in the deity form. I know He's kind because I was a pujari for a short period of time. I poked him with more pins than you can count. He still stayed there the next day. He didn't leave. So many offenses we all commit. He still stays there. He tolerates us. So we know He's so kind. He wants people back. And the way we please Krishna is to help others awaken their love for Him, and to give others an opportunity to serve Him, and to serve them in a humble mood. To think it's not my land. We may have a house here. We may have a apartment complex here. We may have a hut. It's not mine. It's not mine. Especially in the Dham, it's not mine. It belongs to Krishna. It belongs to the Lord. We should think, how can I share it? I've been given the mercy to come here. How can I share what I have? Just like, we know so many book distributors, they come here, and book distributors are so fortunate because they're day and night thinking, how can I share it with more devotees, with more people who've forgotten Krishna? But all of us should think like that. How can I share what I have with the tourists, with the pilgrims, with the ladies, brahmacharis, sannyasis, grahasta, prabhus? How can I share it with the ladies? How can I move out of the way? Lord Chaitanya stood in one place, an old woman stood on his shoulders to see the deity. Was that just some insignificant pastime, like Krishna's pastimes don't mean anything? Everything else is important, but that one doesn't count. God Himself, as a sannyasi, allowed a woman to step on His shoulders. But we're going to be so paka in our separation, and ladies, but no. They're our mothers. What are we doing to facilitate the spiritual advancement of our mothers? So important. What are we doing to make sure every tourist here feels affection, feels appreciated. These are practical things. We can say, I love God, but what's the practical manifestation? If we love God, we have to show it in our dealings with others, especially people that are just beginning their path. We should think, if we're beginning to awaken love of God, sometimes I think here, we've got a few years before this temple opens. And when this temple opens, the world's going to look. They're going to give us about 30 seconds. And within 30 seconds, or maybe one front page story in a newspaper, or one or two TV shows, I've said this before, they're going to walk across the street and they're going to ask the first rickshaw waller they meet, is your life better because of that temple? And if he says no, that's the story, as your humble servant in communications. And he's going to talk to the workers. And he's going to say, are you better off than the guy across the street working for somebody who sells whatever, popcorn or liquor maybe? There's probably a liquor store someplace. And if the guy that owns a liquor shop's treating his workers better than the Hare Krishna temple, what's that say about the Hare Krishna temple? I love God, but I don't care for his parts and parcels. I love God, and I love all the people who look like me. If you wear hair like this, I love you. Different hairstyle, no thank you. You wear a tea like this, you're very good. You wear a tea like that, I don't know. You wear hair up here, you're a good guy. You wear your hair over here, I don't know. That's what Hiranyakashipu's. Even he's teaching against that. So we have some challenges. We have a fantastic opportunity. But part of the problem is if you take shelter of a pure devotee of the Lord, you're supposed to become a pure devotee of the Lord. You take shelter of a, second-class volleyball coach. If you've learned to play volleyball second class, great, you did good. But if we take shelter of a pure devotee of the Lord, we're supposed to become pure devotees of the Lord. Not just become, we're supposed to pass it on to others. And to do so is Krishna conscious, to see Krishna in everything. So if we fail to do so, if we fail to see Krishna in everything, if we fail to see ourselves as servants, if we fail to see our duty is to simply help others come to Krishna. We're the servants here. We're not the owners of this property. We're the servants. We're meant to bring others. So many people are coming to the Lord. Let me help them come. And if we fail to do that, if we don't try to do that, we risk being little Hiranyakashipus. They have everything to say, but the fact is Hiranyakashipu had spiritual knowledge, but he misused it. If we have spiritual knowledge and we misuse it, where do we lie on the spectrum? So we have to be careful. We, especially me, we have to be careful. Otherwise, we have knowledge. We may have knowledge, but we may have a demoniac heart. That's the challenge. We won't necessarily be pleasing Prabhupada. We may think that we're devotee, but like we're reading here, it's a little blurred. It's a little blurred. And our progress will be slowed. So how do we correct that? It's quite simple. We have to remember that we're servants. And as we know, here we are at the feet of Lord Chaitanya, who's so kind. He came in the mood of a servant to show the dumb people of this age how lucky we are to be servants. God himself comes to do what he's telling us to do, and we don't want to do it. And he comes and relishes the highest spiritual ecstasy in that mood, and he comes to the lowest people and says, no, you follow my footsteps. And when Prabhupada says become a servant, it's like go to the top of the class. So being servants and appreciating whatever we do have is a gift of Krishna. It's not mine. It's a gift of Krishna. The sun comes up, it's a gift of Krishna. The fresh air, like Prabhupada mentions in some of these verses, the fresh air, it's a gift of Krishna. Vaishnava Sangha is a gift of Krishna. The fact that some pilgrim comes and somehow wanders to the front with their little paisa out of their little piece of cloth and puts it in the box, that's a gift to us from Krishna. How this woman or this man walked, who knows, 10 kilometers, 20 kilometers, some of these people traveled 2-3 days just to come and put their paisa in the box. That's a gift from Krishna to show me the mood I should try to be developing. So to remember we're servants, to see that everything is a gift, and to do everything we possibly can, and we're conditioned, and it's difficult, but try to share whatever we have. That's Prabhupada's mood. He struggled, and he suffered. He suffered 2 heart attacks. He suffered in the cold. He suffered on the Bowery. He took on so much austerities just to try to help us, each and every one of us. And as he said, if you love me, we'll try to repay our debt towards him, to preach like he's done, in a humble mood. Just please somehow attract others to Krishna. Try to demonstrate our mood of service to others, and try to give everyone an opportunity to come and take shelter of the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya, here or in Moscow or in Los Angeles or in Buenos Aires or wherever we are. And if we do that, then we're fulfilling this definition of Vaishnava. And then the 50th anniversary of ISKCON will not just be a celebration of what's been done, but it will be a celebration of wonderful, great things to come in our generation and many, many generations to come. So thank you very much for your kind attention. I'll end there. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So, can I take a question too, or not? It says 8:45. Is it finished, Paka? Questions are okay? Okay, the book minister. I'm the communications minister. I'm the hierarchy of ministers. I am at the feet of the book distribution ministry, so I'll take his order. Any questions or comments? Apurva Prabhu. I don't know if there's a mic, so I'll just repeat it. I'm remembering a pastime of Srila Prabhupada going on a morning walk. In Mayapur, one devotee told me. He wasn't on the walk, but he heard it later. Srila Prabhupada was mentioning somehow the conversation came up that Prabhupada had done so much. Srila Prabhupada was not boasting, but he said, yes, I have done this. I've done 10 times more than my spiritual master. So you should do 10, 20 times more than me. Oh, he's asking, can I unpack that? Well, I mean, so many people here could comment on that. I'll just try to say that, Prabhupada said that many times. He said that it's the desire of the spiritual master to see the devotees, one, he said, not just dancing and chanting, but preaching. So that's one. And he also said that by the mercy of the spiritual master, one can actually surpass, as he was explaining, the spiritual master, in the sense that by his grace, he can use us as an instrument. We're not the doer, but he can use us as an instrument, and he can achieve more things through us than maybe it seems that he achieved. Of course, none of us is ever going to surpass Prabhupada. That's not possible. But it's the order of the spiritual master. We shouldn't be so humble and think, oh, what can I do? It's a nice expression. They say we should act as if everything depended upon us, and we should pray and meditate knowing that actually everything depends upon Krishna. And that way give our full endeavor, but maintain that humility. And we see like that beautiful prayer, Markandeya Bhagavat Darshan, Prabhupada wrote in Boston Harbor. I mean, it's such a beautiful prayer. He's so much struggling. He's just on the cusp of, maybe he'd been ashore and came back on the ship, but he's just about to disembark for good. And he's just in this mood of utter helplessness. I don't know why you brought me here. The people are covered by the modes of ignorance and passion, but now if you want, you can make my words understandable. He says it again and again and again. Now if you want, you can make me your instrument. So we should pray the same way. We should pray the same way. Thank you for that nice remembrance of Prabhupada. Any question from the ladies' side? Oh, you're a little harder to hear. Can you come closer, or can you? What is the main thing, Prabhupada? What's the main thing that Prabhupada wants us to do to show our love to him? After he leaves. Well, of course, we know he emphasized cooperation. We know that. We know that. And why is that so important? Because, we're from everywhere in the world. My friend Baladev Prabhu here is from Argentina. Srivas Prabhu is from West Africa. Devotees here from Punjabi Bagh, Florida, New Vrindavan. We have a devotee here who, by Krishna's empowerment, actually, if you've ever seen a picture, carved the deity of Lord Nrsimhadev in New Vrindavan. He's sitting here. So, what a gift that is. Devotees to give us so many gifts. So the most important thing is we have to cooperate. And the problem is, it's really hard to cooperate because people just don't understand that usually you're right. Isn't it? If everybody understood I was right, it'd be easy to cooperate. And unfortunately, they're in ignorance and they don't understand how right I usually am. Obviously, I'm making the point that's our materialistic mentality. So, cooperating is not hard. We're also reminded there's a beautiful story. I think it was Atlanta. Prabhupada had a meeting with the book distributors, and we all know how important book distribution is. And when the book distributors asked Prabhupada, what's the most important way to please you? What's the most important service? And I think they were, kind of leading the question a little bit. And his response was, when you love Krishna, that pleases me most. But we can't love Krishna if we don't love his parts and parcels. It doesn't work. If we want to love him, we have to try to love his parts and parcels. And if we're trying to love him, we have to love his parts and parcels. And if we love his parts and parcels, you can't do that if you don't love him. So it's perfect wholeness. It's wonderful. There was one other comment here. Yes, Prabhu. Where are you from, Prabhu? From Nigeria. You're one of the 50 devotees that came from Nigeria? No, you're 51. No. Nice. Nice to have you here.
I want to first of all say thank you. It's a big introspective class you gave. And in process of your, passing the information, I noticed rather a little bit being meticulous in spite of the raised question. You raised several philosophical questions, especially the example or the question you raised about the rickshaw-wala,
rickshaw-wala,
yes. And also the man who is walking. So I look at so different questions you raised in the process of your class that they all violate the different principles of Vedic culture. Like on the first principle, we know that we have to please Krishna, and everyone become pleased. And the social order also, we have different people who are specified for different occupation, and also there's karma, and karma has different role to play in everyone. Of course, I do appreciate, it's a moral class, a class that calls for introspective activities as it concerns devotional service. So these questions that I think that there is valuation in this principle. Please, you have anything to say?
Which principle?
The principles that what we do, or rather, that there is the laws of karma is there for everything we do, and two, that we cannot please everyone, but if Krishna is pleased, then everyone become pleased. And the fourth one is the third one is that the Varnashram system, which Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, he creates that everyone has his own legitimate status. So these are all different principles that I refer that several, philosophical questions you raise a little bit.
Yeah. So sometimes we might understand, I can't please everybody, therefore I should please Krishna and don't worry about anybody else. We can't understand that. But Krishna says, one who's in knowledge sees with equal vision. A learned and a gentle Brahman, a cow, an elephant, a dog eater. Those of us from the West, when you think of dog eater, it sounds pretty abominable. When you see the dogs here, it's really abominable. I don't even want to get close to one of those lovely creatures. What to speak of eat one, right? Dog eater, pretty low. One in knowledge sees that person in a Brahman and none different. So, what does that mean? Does that mean we treat everybody exactly alike? In one sense, yes. In one sense, no. Prabhupada said even a pure devotee doesn't embrace the tiger. Because the tiger thinks he's a tiger. But he still is merciful. You know, maybe you go to the zoo, you can still chant the Hare Krishna mantra for the tiger. You don't jump in the tiger cage. So, sees everyone alike, gives everyone mercy, gives everyone compassion. So, yes, if we love Krishna, we're automatically pleasing everyone else. That refers to the people you never run into. What about everybody else that you have an exchange with? You know, you're a Paka Brahmachari, Tilak, Sika. So you walk through the airport and you buy a bottle of water and you're polite to that lady behind the counter and she thinks, who is this person? Such a gentleman. Who are you anyway? Oh, I'm a Hare Krishna. Oh, I should learn more about you people. Or you buy your water and you're thinking, you're in samadhi, how are you going to offer it to Krishna? So you're rude to that lady. So now have you pleased Krishna? You can't please everybody in the back bottling the water, but you can do a little service to the lady who's selling you water. There was a class years ago called Sankirtan Yoga that book distributor Sankirtan devotees. See, I'm running from Krishna to Krishna. He's in your heart, he's in your heart, he's in your heart. That everybody we meet. So you're right, we can't please everybody, so we should try to please Krishna. Part of pleasing Krishna is give everyone we meet a chance to do some service. It doesn't just mean those people that are ready to chant 16 rounds or even become a vegetarian or even come to the temple. Why not everyone? Everyone you meet, everywhere you go, every rickshawwala you meet. I don't know any Bengali, but how are you? You having a nice day? How's your kids? Do you ever bring them to the temple? Can I give you some prasadam? Why not? Are we too good to give a rickshawwala some prasadam? The bus driver? Say thank you. I'm big Brahman. You're lucky to have served me by driving this bus. You're fortunate. Now your life is perfect, is purified. You served a Vaishnava. If we think like that, he didn't get much credit because I'm not much of a Vaishnava. But instead we should think, thank you, sir, for helping me. I'm going to work. I'm going to pick up my children. I'm going to the temple. Thank you for helping me. I'm so grateful you helped me. And if we think like that, he's going to think, wow, what kind of people are these? I've been driving this bus for 30 years. Nobody appreciated what I'm doing. Why? Because they're all thinking about their sense gratification. You're just an object. I need you to drive me to work so I can make money for me. The world's all about me. You're one more object. Devotees thinking, no, everything's for Krishna. Wow, just see you help me for Krishna. You help me. Thank you for this ride. It's okay? Okay. We'll stop there. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Shri Panchatattva ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Madhava ki jai. Gaur Premanandi.